good morning, afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever the heck you are. I'm Stefan. Welcome to another edition of Stefan Reads Line News here on Small in Japan, the YouTube channel where we talk about what is big/small in Japan. Man. Well, it is a Tuesday edition here, the 30th of August, 2022. Line is, of course, the biggest messaging app in Japan. It has its own Line News tab now where it aggregates news from various sources, and the algorithm spits them out at me, and I read them to you on this here segment almost every single day, regardless of how stupid or pointless or boring the articles it gives me are. If you haven't yet done so, be sure to follow the channel and like and subscribe, all that jazz. You can find us on Twitter at Stefan_in, at small_in_Japan, or find me on Twitter. There we go, that's what I wanted to say, at Stefan_Tetsu. Anyways, let's get right to it. So, Line has 2 rows of fluffy, pointless pictures with headlines. And then between those, you have 3 normal, actual news stories that are pretty much buried as just straight up text. So we'll get to the hard-hitting news in a second, but first, let's power through all the fluff so we can get on with our lives. So, story number 1 here is just a summary of something that Kaminuma Emiko, who is kind of hard to... probably the elder stateswoman of Japanese comedy, I guess. So she's like probably, I guess if we have to make like some like Western comparison, she'd be like the Joan Rivers of Japan. I guess that's probably a good comparison to make. Anyways, it's just literally just a summary of something she said on her radio show last night. So I guess I have to actually say what it is. So Kaminuma-san was talking about how the time she realized that a guy was no good for her. This is back when she was 19 years old, and she's 67 now, so it's like 50 years ago. So timely. But anyway, she was talking about how she invited this guy home, and he asked her where the TV was, and then he sat and watched baseball on the TV all day. And that's when she realized he was no good for her. There's no punchline or anything to this story. It's literally just her complaining about some guy watching TV after she invited him over for fun time, I'm guessing. That is Kaminuma-san in a nutshell. She said that she was gonna wind down and retire and like not do M1 judging or anything over the last couple years, but she's kept doing that ever since. If you remember, a couple years ago, Toro-san and Kubota-san and a couple other comedians got in trouble for bad-mouthing her on like the M1 after party, and it became news because that's disrespectful of your elders. She's a interesting figure. Like when you go onto her TV show, Nick's talked about this, but when you go onto her TV show, you have to bring her a gift to give to her before the show, like so she's like friendly to you. It's a whole thing. I'm like, the Japanese entertainment industry is full of these sorts of situations. There's like the elder statesmen. So like if you go on like Akko ni Omakase, you have to be careful of Wada Akiko. And like all the shishos at Yoshimoto, you have to be really, really careful with them when you talk to them. Some of them are really, really friendly for the most part, but there's a couple that are like really uptight with like sticks up their butt and like old fashioned about like joge, respect culture. So Kaminuma Emiko is definitely one of those. All right, so let's move on. So we're going to move on from a summary of a radio show to a blatant PR piece for an upcoming TV show starting in September. So Sakurai Sho, former Arashi member, is hosting a new news variety show from September 3rd on Nippon Terebi. It's called, I'm going to give you the rough English translation, would be 130 million folks show channel. The actual Japanese channel is 1億3000万人のショーチャンネル. Show is, of course, a play on Sakurai Sho's name and also the word show, S-H-O-W. Haha. Wow, whoever came up with this title is super, super smart and edgy here. And it's apparently going to be a news variety show every Saturday. that features gourmet stories and jimoto neta, so like local stories, I guess. Sakurai Sho says that he's excited about doing this. Who wouldn't be excited about having a new TV show that they're going to get paid exorbitantly for? So good for him. I am not sure how this qualifies as news, but when it involves an Arashi member, you're going to want to push it out there for the clicks. So that's the top row of useless stories. Let's go to that second bottom half. So this story is also pointless, and it's a summary of something that happened on a TV show. Yes, today we aren't getting any actual news with the fluff. We're just getting pure fluff today. Story number 3 is about Hirosue Ryoko being shocked by Snowman, another Johnny groups, Sakuma Daisuke's age. So Sakuma Daisuke is a member of Snowman, which is another Johnny's group that's kind of risen up over the last couple of years after the previous generation of Johnnies either all quit due to scandals or are on hiatus like Arashi, although most of the Arashi members are still doing stuff just separately. So they were on Rabbito, which until today I thought stood for like the word rabbit, like the bunny rabbit word, but apparently it's a really, really bad Japanization of the word love it, which is completely not how you would actually say that in it's a terrible Japanization, like waseigo thing that I have absolutely. With the second I found out that it was Love It, I was just like, how? But anyways, they were on this Love It show and together, and during the opening, Hirosue Ryoko asked what Sakuma's age was, and he said 30, and she was shocked. And the MC, so Kirin Kawashima-san, another Yoshimoto guy, by the way, said that he's just a weird kid. He just looks younger than he is. So I guess that's news here. Once again, it's just a summary of something that happened on a TV show. So yeah, we aren't really getting the A+ material today from Line News. Let's go on to story number 4 here, which is actually not really news, but it's sports news. Which is news in a sense. It's about the Twins pitcher Maeda Kenta Maeda, for you MLB fans. He's was shut down for the season during he's rehabilitating from Tommy John surgery, which he had in September of last year. And there's initial thought that he's going to come back at the end of this season, which is literally like this month, and it's not going to happen. Which is of course news in Japan because there's still a sense of like, oh, I gotta watch my Japanese player play in, baseball in America because I gotta support my hometown hero even if the hometown is an entire country. Of course, everyone's a big fan of Ohtani Shohei, which actually makes sense because he's actually really, really freaking good. Maeda Kenta he's okay, I guess. He's had a solid career, not exactly like a Cy Young winner or anything, but he's had a good career. So hopefully his Tommy John's recovery goes well. He can come back and pitch strongly for the Twin Cities next season. So those are the pointless fluff stories. Let's actually take a look at the 3 headlines that Line News gives us today. Number 1. We have a story about we covered this yesterday. There's a typhoon blowing in. The typhoon's going to apparently strike Okinawa on the 31st, so tomorrow, and there's heavy rain expected. That's pretty much the full brunt of the story. They're talking about Okinawa seeing maybe 200, in 24 hours, they're going to see around 200 to 300 milliliters of rain. So I'm not really sure why they don't just say it's going to see 20 to 30 centimeters of rain. Which would probably be the more prudent way of writing it, but I'm not a metric system guy, so I have no idea. So it's a short story, but that's number 1. If you're in Okinawa, be careful. Story number 2 is a hate crime story, which you gotta love these. So a guy was sentenced to 4 years in prison for arson at Kyoto's historic Korean town Utoro. He set a fire last year. In this old Korean district. That's where all the Zainichi Korean used to live back in the day, which is a whole man, this is a whole podcast on its own. So there's a whole swath, even now, there's a whole swath of people living in Japan that are ethnically Korean, that were brought over back when Korea was a Japanese colony, slash like a place for Japanese people to get slave labor. And so they were brought back to Japan. Then after the war, stuff just didn't really. It was messy after the war, so there's a bunch of Korean people that are still in Japan that aren't Japanese citizens, but have lived here their entire lives. This guy apparently hates him. He even says, when asked why he tried to burn down this area, he said, "Because I hate Koreans." That's literally what he said. He only got 4 years in prison for this crime. By the way, this isn't even the first time that he tried to set fire to to the Zainichi Korean landmark. He also set fire to the Nagoya Mindan Honkan. So like the Mindan is like the organization for ethnic Koreans living in Japan who are stuck in citizenship no man's land. There's actually two organizations. This is the South Korean organization. There's a North Korean organization that's also around. Not as big as the Mindan one, but probably actually more powerful. Anyways, this guy tried to set fire to that. Doesn't really say if he was sentenced for that crime, but apparently he's only getting 4 years in prisons, and after that he'll be free to go around and start committing more hate crimes in the meantime. 4 years for trying to burn down a Korean thing because you hate Koreans. Gotta love Japan, guys. Oh boy. Story number 3. So a Tokyo ward accidentally gave a daycare center 500 million yen, and now they're asking for that money back. To which the daycare center says, "We don't have that sort of money just lying around to give back to you." So this wasn't just like a one-time thing. This is a bunch of payments between 2018 to 2021. And it wasn't just one daycare center. It was actually a bunch of daycare centers, it looks like. So they were just giving money out to daycare centers, and they realized they gave too much money out, and now they're asking for that money back. But obviously, these daycare centers are going to be spending the money on stuff anyways. They aren't going to just like keep that money lying around. So now they can't just pay it back. And that's a problem. But that's Japan for you. Some bureaucrat guy somewhere messed up with a zero or something, and now there's 500 million less yen, or there's 500 million yen that just kind of got bounced around that shouldn't have been bounced around. So I don't know how they're going to sort this out. This is like literally like I feel like there's a story like this like every single week here in Japan. So yeah, it's a mess. That's Japan in general. Japan is your hot, sloppy, like neighbor from college. Was that a bad analogy? Probably. But oh well, it's my show. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Man, we just had a lot of fluff today. Just like I think 3 of the 4 fluff stories were just summaries of news shows, and the other one was a picture was a story about a pitcher from baseball. So not exactly Line News' best day, but what can you do? Hopefully tomorrow will be better. We'll see. Until next time, I'm Stefan. Stay safe. Take care.